Hi Ceramics! Today we're going to talk about our next project, which is the Sentimental Trinket Container. So a trinket is an object that is a keepsake. It has sentimental value and means something to the owner. It could be a rock from a beach that's special to you. It could be a small sculpture that represents something important. It's really completely up to the person that owns that trinket what that meaning is. And of course, a container is something that holds an object. And in this case, it does have a lid. So the shapes and sizes vary depending on the maker, but the biggest thing is making sure that the lid fits well and it's easily removable. So methods for making your container, you can either choose a pinch pot, just like you did for your first project. You can choose a coil and smooth technique. That's the middle picture, where you'll actually roll out coils. You'll scratch and slip them together to create a form, and then you'll actually smooth them together to get rid of the seams. Sometimes this allows you to create different shapes other than what a pinch pot would create. The last one is the most difficult and the most risky. You're forming a shape, and then you're actually hollowing it out with a loop tool to be about 1/4 inch. The one shape that I can think of that both the pinch and coil method does not allow is a square. So if you were to form a cube and then actually hollow out that cube to create that container, that is an option. Just keep in mind it is probably the most time consuming and the more difficult technique. So theme of this project, you're creating a trinket and a container that go together to represent someone that is important to you. Who could that be? It could be a family member, a relative, a friend, a pet, or a hero. The biggest thing is making sure that it's actually a person or a being. It's not an object. So I know that maybe your sketchbooks are really important to you, or your bed, or a game controller. That's all great, but I'm asking for actually someone that is important to you. The trinket and container are a set, which means that they should visually go together. The imagery, the shape, the design should relate to each other. Potters never rely on glaze, the color, to make objects become a quote-unquote family. There's other aspects that are shared to give the feeling of belongingness. So please keep that in mind, and you'll be planning your trinket and your container so that they look like they go together, because they do. They go together. So my example, I would create a trinket container that represents my son, Frank. The container would be a pair of arms wrapped around each other, showing my love for him and also how he's a part of me as I am a part of him. And the trinket that I would create to go inside of this container would be his favorite stuffed animal, which is this puppy dog. It's got these crazy long arms and legs and these cute little ears. And he was given the stuffed animal the first time he went into his spina bifida team of doctors in the hospital. And ever since, that is the puppy that he snuggles with when he's sleeping at night. So without that puppy, I am eternally grateful because he gets sleep, which means that I get sleep. So that would be my trinket container if I were to make one about Frank. Dimensions and timeline. So your container should be between 4x4 to 6x6. To give you an idea, I really don't want anyone creating a container that's like 8 or 10 inches, nor should you be creating anything smaller than 4x4, because you still need to fit something inside that container. The container should have a lid that fits well, and it's easy to pick up, so make sure you have like a knob or somehow you're going to be able to pick up that lid easily. The shape is completely up to you, and your trinket must fit inside the container. So you want to make sure that that trinket is small enough to fit inside, but the smaller you go, the also more detail and more difficult it can be. So kind of keep that in mind when you're making your container. Day one is you're going to form the body of your container and create the lid, but you're going to leave the lid separate and leave it on a flat surface so it doesn't warp. You want to keep it flat so that it's going to actually fit the container. Day two is you're going to create the trinket, keeping in mind the thickness should be no more than 1/4 inch thick, and also keeping in mind the shape, size, and durability. You still want to make sure you create a trinket that's not going to break once it gets bone dry, and you also want to create a trinket that's going to fit inside the container. Day 3 is finalizing details of the container, the lid, and the trinket, and then you're all set. All right, so I'm really excited to see what you guys come up with, and next up you're going to go ahead and start planning in your sketchbooks.